doing? Hope you guys are good. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Dwayne. Today we're going to be looking at Vivek Ramaswamy, former presidential candidate for 2024. And we're going to be looking specifically at comments that he has been making on racism and also Black Americans in general. First of all, he is 38 years old. He's an American entrepreneur and a politician. He was born in 1985. At Harvard, he gained a reputation as a brash and confident libertarian. While in college, he performed Eminem covers and libertarian-themed rap music under the stage name and alter ego Vivek. And he's controversial too. He says some things, straight up. Check this out.
I believe that transgenderism specifically is a mental health disorder. I believe it's a mental health condition. No. We're going to finish this. This is good. We have to have open conversation in this country.
In January 2024, Forbes estimated Ramaswamy's net worth at more than $960 million. He's no longer running for president, and now he is backing Trump 100% and giving his full support to Trump.
And right now, we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. That is this man standing right here. If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to defeat the deep state, vote Trump. If you want to fight inflation, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country, vote Trump. If you want to revive our national identity in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump.
Now, before we get into it, let's define racism. We got to start with definitions. We got to define racism so you guys know where I'm coming from. And this is the best definition of racism that I have heard up to now.
Racism is a power relationship between groups of people. That's all it is. It means where one group of people have control of so much wealth and power and resource that it can deprive, hurt, and injure and exploit another group to benefit itself. Never in the history of this earth have Black folk ever controlled that much resources and where they can have gone out of their way to exploit, injure, and do something to whites. So therefore, racism only started in the 16th century when he began to commercialize slavery against Blacks. That's when racism started. There was no such thing as racism before that. You got to understand racism also comes from the word race. Race means group. So whenever you hear people talking about now, you cannot prove racism because somebody fired you from a job, they are absolutely right. And the power structure and all the white think tanks in Washington know that. That's why you can no longer prove racism, because racism does not apply to an individual. It applies to a group. The second thing about the word race, remember also, which is very important for our discussion today, is the word race means being in competition. See, they didn't pick house, tree, car. They said racism. Race means being where people are competing from here to there. And we are in competition. That's what racism means. Black people must learn how to compete or survive, or not compete and perish.
Tell him, Dr. Anderson.
If I may just finish this. If I may finish my point,
deal with racism,
I think I will be better positioned.
But you're denying that racism is a problem.
I've never denied that racism is a problem. And if you listen to the response I gave to that Black pastor, my whole point is racism has been a major problem for most of our national history.
But he does admit that there is racism, so that's good because some other people have another thing.
We're not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. We've never been a racist country. We've never been a racist country. We're not a racist country, Brian.
Vivek, have you faced racial discrimination in your life?
I have faced racial discrimination in my life. It has come from people of diverse races. I don't think racism is limited to one race, actually. But I also don't let it ruin my life. Have I stubbed my toe? Yes, I have. Is it pleasant when your toe is stubbed? No, it is not. But you don't let it ruin your life.
Okay, so that was interesting, but I don't think that you're calling a toe stub and equating that to what Black Americans, foundational Black Americans have gone through in this country. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's just talking about his own personal experience. He hasn't experienced that much. Now, I want you to check out Vivek's wife. She asks a very, very important question, which goes to this issue of race. Just take a listen to this.
What do people say gives them like, oh, I can't vote for him because what are the things that they thought? What answers can I help you provide?
Well, the only one I had, and I couldn't even remember who said that to me, but they mentioned it's dark skin, and they think Muslim right away. Yeah. So I kind of set them straight on that, whether they believe it or thought I was covering for it. I don't know, but and I tried to explain.
There's not much we can do about that one.
Well,
This one's interesting. He's explaining to a voter, and I guess he's in some county in Iowa. He's explaining to a voter his Hindu religion because, remember, he's not Christian, he's Hindu.
So to be very honest, it's not a hard question at all. So in our faith tradition, Jesus Christ is a son of God. I know that is different than saying he's the son of God. But that is my view of Jesus Christ.
I hope not.
He's got our family. Do we worship in churches? Yes, we do. Is that compatible with our faith? Yes, it is. One true God in many forms. So that's different, and I understand that.
That is different. The only way to heaven is through Jesus Christ.
I think that is the path. That is a path to heaven is the way we look at it. But belief in God is what we say. Yeah. Belief in the one true God. That's the way.
And that's not the end of it. It gets worse.
Satan is the author of confusion. And we know that. And right now, the battle is coming for the presidential nomination. And there's a man who is gaining traction right now as the presidential nominee. And his name is Vivek Ramaswamy. And he is Hindu. And those who are Hindu believe in many gods. And he speaks well, and he is very charismatic, and he says the right things. He says so many right things. Sometimes I'm like, maybe he is the right guy, but he's not, because our God will not be mocked. Do not be fooled. Do not be a victim of Satan's confusion right now.
Channel your best Donald Trump and look into the camera and say, Don Lemon, you're fired. Don Lemon, you're fired.
To Black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. What
part of the history was wrong?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for Black people, only for Black people to get guns and for Black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for Black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission. And I think that even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
To reduce it in a speech at the NRA to say you're making people think, or you're trying to say that Black people to get guns, that was the reason that you're there at the NRA. That was the reason for the Civil War.
It is a
that's
fact.
Reductive.
It's not
and
reductive,
I think it's
Don.
insulting. There are a whole of reasons that for the Civil War.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to Black Americans, to say that Black people today, compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was
Black
part
people,
of what secured
hang on,
that
please.
freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on 1 second. So to say that Black people, say what you said again.
Don Lemon, you're fired.
Say what you said again.
Don Lemon, you're fired.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They
That's
were
a
not
fact.
secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because Black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to
And you know
happen
how they
after the
got
Civil
it?
War
They got their
and
Second Amendment
Reconstruction.
rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that.
Okay, there's a couple of quick points that I want to mention on that. Number one, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That came in 1791, folks. That's 70 years before slavery. The right to bear arms was only given to citizens, and at that time it was the whites. So basically, the Second Amendment was a way for particularly Southern whites to protect their institution, the institution of slavery. Then there were all these other obstacles that came into place. That's where you have licensing coming in. Because at first, you didn't need a license. The whites did not need a license. But now that when the blacks entered the realm, now suddenly a license structure is built up. And you need this, you need this, you need that, you have to get that. Blacks have to basically jump through hoops. Now, so I see what he's saying. Bearing arms is vitally important, but come on, I mean, look what happened with the Black Panthers, for example. They had the arms, didn't they?
And I reject the narrative of systemic racism because I think it is a fake, made-up concept to apologize for the failures of actual real systems, like a failing educational system that tells poor kids they're trapped in the zip code that they're born in. Failed systems that drive the fatherlessness epidemic in this country by the government fueling it. Many Black kids are born into fatherlessness today, many more than were in 1950. Who created that? Lyndon Johnson and the federal government. So they blow woke smoke to deflect accountability for their own failures.
The problem in America is not drug abuse, crime, low-income housing, public housing, food stamps, welfare, teenage pregnant. Those are symptoms of a problem. The symptoms are the fact that you don't own and control anything to run you and control your lives. That's the problem. Nothing has happened to Black folk by accident. Everything that's happened to you has been systematically programmed through what I call social engineering. You are a victim of historical social engineering.
I focus on 1945. Back then, everybody was able to return to peace and get a home. And all they had to do was pay 25% of their income. They would get a mortgage and they would end a home. And the homes that the population got in 1945 have all been bequeathed to their sons, their grandchildren. And this home ownership has been hereditary, but only for white people, not really for Black people. And that's where the apartheid was. From 1945 until almost 1990, almost 2000, the Black population could not get mortgages. There was redlining. So the result is that the white population was able to buy affordable housing when you only pay 25% of your income on housing, on mortgage payments, or on rent. You can afford to buy goods and services. And that low price of housing was really what spurred the economic takeoff until the 1980s when things were changed. But the Black population was left out of it. Finally, they began to be accepted back into it around 2000, 2008. And by 2008, you had a rise finally in Black and Hispanic homeownership. But there was one problem. They had to pay much higher interest rates than white people. And the banks charged them much more of their income than 25%. Even today, long after 2008, people have to pay up to 43% of their income for rent. Turned out, not only did they have higher rates, but the banks falsified the prices of the property being sold. They added all sorts of charges on there. And the result has been that this polarization between creditors and debtors that's hurting the whole economy has taken on a racial coloration in the United States.
Hey, Vivek, once again, is there racism?
Is there racism today? Yes, there is. Of course there is.
Do you have a theory on how to deal with it?
I have a theory on how to deal with it at this point. Which is different from 1960, which is different from 1870, but today. Because there's different stages in a nation's life, I think, require different responses.
So how would you deal with it? Because obviously they said there's no racism.
Now,
it's not a racist country.
So I think right now, I'm not saying this is the answer 60 years ago, but right now, today, I think the right answer is actually to let it atrophy to irrelevance.
Say what?
It's like the equivalence. I'm a biologist by background. That's my background. If a virus gets so low, right? If racism is the virus, if it gets so low in the bloodstream at a certain point, the natural host immune system can just take care of it and it atrophies to irrelevance.
Wait a minute. Can you just say that again?
At a certain point in time, it's like when that virus is almost cleared. It's still a little bit of it left, but it's almost cleared to say that we're going to let it atrophy to irrelevance.
Do nothing.
And I think that's the point we're at right now, or else I worry we're creating more race consciousness in a way that creates more division rather than less right now.
Oh, do you mean reverse racism by any chance? Which is another made-up concept. If systemic racism is made up and then reverse racism is made up. Ibram Kendi, you got anything to say?
Well, the fact of the matter is how do we eliminate racism? How do we eliminate racial disparities and inequities where Black people are more likely to die at the hands of police violence, be impoverished, be incarcerated, die from heart disease and cancer, if we don't talk about race, if we don't identify by race, and so that's the fact of the matter. And they want to eliminate conversations about race so that they can hide racism.
They want to eliminate conversations about race so they can hide racism. Ooh. Slam dunk. That's a slam dunk, yo. That's like Michael Jordan from the free throw line coming in all smooth on you, like, oh, you don't think I can do it? Pew. Let me just remind y'all about the definition of racism.
Racism is a power relationship between groups of people. That's all it is. It means where one group of people have control of so much wealth and power and resource that it can deprive, hurt, and injure and exploit another group to benefit itself. And we are in competition. That's what racism means. Black people must learn how to compete or survive, or not compete and perish.
I want to thank you guys for watching, for subscribing. Please continue to subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed, share, like, hit that like button, you know what I mean? And also comment, tell me what your comments are. I try to reply to all my comments, okay? But if I don't reply, it's just because I didn't understand what you said, or, there's nothing really to reply. You know what I mean? So that would be the only case. But anyway, thank you for watching. Be good, stay safe, stay strong, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.